Section 1. Introduction to the Zone. History. So, before I tell you how to survive in the zone, I should probably tell you what the zone is, and how it came about. The simple fact is that no one is really sure what the zone is. However, it appears to be a localized area in space, and perhaps time, where the usual laws of biology and physics have become corrupted or warped, creating an environment that is utterly unique. As far as we know, nothing like it has existed before. Its origins are equally unclear. The original zone of alienation, that is, when the zone was merely radioactive, started with the Chernobyl accident on the 26th of April, 1986. This is no secret, of course, and there is a wealth of information in the public domain regarding the accident and subsequent zone. You can absorb this at your leisure. I suggest that you do. There are, however, persistent rumors that the official explanation for the accident, essentially a botched safety test, was a cover-up. These rumors state that whatever created the zone as it is today had something to do with this accident as well. I have not seen any evidence to back this up, and at any rate, it's irrelevant. It is the zone proper as it is today that we are interested in. It is generally accepted that the zone, as we know it today, was created on or about the 10th of June, 2006. This has since become known as the second disaster. This coincided with a release of energy that was subsequently called the first emission. Almost everyone operating within the zone was killed by it, as were the personnel stationed at the zone's perimeter. This energy came from the vicinity of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, the center of the zone. It was from this point that anomalies, artifacts and mutants were encountered on a regular basis. There are suggestions that some of these phenomena may predate this event, at least in a few isolated cases. However, I have seen no hard proof of this. The leading theory of what caused this event is that it was the unintentional consequence of mind control experiments. The story goes that these experiments were authorized by the Soviet government back in the late 1980s. The now evacuated zone was the perfect place for their scientists to site their underground labs, safe from both radiation and prying eyes. The still functioning reactors at the CNPP provided all the power they would need, and the region's many antennas could be repurposed for use in their experiments. These experiments had humble beginnings, starting with lab animals, but later progressed onto human testing. These test subjects were probably not volunteers. I hear they were provided by the gulags. Anyway, it seems these experiments continued despite the collapse of the Soviet Union. Apparently, the scientists felt they were on the verge of something big, something worth pursuing with or without permission, so the labs went rogue. Do I know what the scientists were on the verge of? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. That is for me to know. Perhaps I will tell you later. Whatever the experiment they were attempting was, it must have backfired, and thus the zone as we know it today was born. Although this may sound like tinfoil hat conspiracy theory BS, there is hard evidence to support it. Whether you choose to believe it or not makes no difference to me. So, the zone is probably an accident, but one that we can profit from. Location. The zone straddles the border between northern Ukraine and southern Belarus, an area that was not heavily populated even before the evacuation of 1986. This is most likely due to the region being dominated by large marshlands and forests, which naturally discouraged heavy settlement. This is probably one of the reasons the Soviets chose to site the reactor complex here in the first place. This remoteness and isolation no doubt helped contain the effects of the 1986 accident. It also made the evacuation easier, since most of the population was there to service the CNPP. This remoteness also helped minimize the loss of life associated with the second accident in 2006. It may also partly explain the Ukrainian government's rather lax handling of the situation. Since the zone is in the middle of nowhere, and therefore not perceived to be a direct threat to anything important, the government and the army appear happy to simply contain it. They also attempt to stem the flow of people, artifacts and contraband to and from. However, a combination of inadequate funding, insufficient manpower, demoralized troops and incompetent or corrupt officers have resulted in security as watertight as a sieve, which is good for businesses such as mine. The artifact trade. So, what is my business, and why would anyone want to go to such a godforsaken place? My main business is in trading artifacts. What are artifacts, you ask? Artifact is a catch-all term for things in the zone that have been altered by its unique properties. There is a wide range of artifacts, some biological, some metallic, some crystalline, etc., and they have a wide range of unique properties. Some of these properties appear to violate the laws of biology and physics as we currently understand them. Some of these properties are highly beneficial to the fields of science, medicine, engineering and defense. You may have noticed there have been some notable advances in these fields in the last few years. Where did these advances come from? They came from artifacts. Artifacts have also become sought-after collector's items by those with more money than sense. Their rarity, expense and less than legal status making them something of a status symbol. By and large, these artifacts cannot be manufactured artificially, since exactly what they are, how they are formed and how they work is still largely unknown. The eggheads are working on it, of course, but so far, they have barely scratched the surface. Therefore, artifacts can only be obtained from within the zone. However, it is highly illegal to enter the zone and it is protected by the military, who are authorized to shoot on sight. Once inside the zone, a stalker will also have to face the zone's many hazards to reach an artifact. Artifacts spawn, if that is the correct word, in anomalies. Anomaly is another catch-all term, one that describes small areas of highly anomalous conditions, which appeared after the 2006 accident. Anomalies come in many shapes, sizes and types, and include areas of extreme magnetism, gravitation, electricity, heat, cold or psi energy. Some may contain toxic and corrosive liquids and gases. To obtain an artifact, a stalker will need to enter these anomaly fields, find it, and bring it out again. Therefore, retrieving artifacts and getting them out of the zone is a risky business, but this is where stalkers like you come in. Since it is technically illegal for private citizens, and most organizations come to think of it, to own, store or transport artifacts, it takes someone with the right contacts to move them. This is where I come in. You enter the zone, get the artifacts and sell them to me, then I move and sell them on to those in the big land who want them. You scratch my back, I scratch yours, and everybody is happy. But if you ever try to cross me, there will be, shall we say, consequences. The stalker phenomenon. So, what exactly is a stalker, you may ask? For a start, it is not what most people in the West think of if they hear the word. In the West, a stalker is a perverted creep who obsessively observes and follows someone around. Over here in the East, it means something else entirely. Stalker is the name given by the Ukrainian government to people who illegally enter the zone in search of artifacts and other valuables. Although intended as a derogatory term, loner artifact hunters took the name for themselves, and now consider it a badge of honor. People have been illegally entering the zone since the accident of 1986, looking for whatever valuables and scrap they could salvage. After the accident of 2006, this became less common, since the zone proper was so dangerous. However, this changed by 2011, after it was demonstrated that long-term survival in the zone was possible, at least for those sufficiently prepared and equipped. This, combined with the increased interest in artifacts, made stalking an attractive, and profitable, activity for the right sort of person. Stalkers began illegally infiltrating the zone in increasing numbers, and so the stalker phenomenon was born. Demographics. There are no official figures for how many people are in the zone. It's not like anybody is going to carry out a census there, or that any self-respecting stalker would answer it anyway, but by my estimate, there are some 300 to 400 resident stalkers. Some come to make a quick buck and go, some choose to stay in the zone for other reasons and may remain there for years. And there is always a fresh supply of aspirant stalkers such as yourself to replace those that leave, or become lost to the zone. Most stalkers are Slavic Eastern European or Russian males of about 18 to 35 years of age. This is to be expected, of course, considering its location. That said, I know for a fact that there are a number of stalkers from other parts of the world who are there for various reasons. How do I know this? Think about it, who would they have to go through to get there? Anyway, I digress. There are probably as many reasons why people want to become stalkers as there are stalkers themselves. Some are there by choice. Some of these want to get rich quick, some want adventure, some do it out of curiosity, some go to hunt, whilst some want to test themselves against the world's harshest environment. Some go simply to forget. Others, however, are there out of desperation, and these are the ones to watch out for. They may be on the run from gambling debts, addiction, the authorities, or the mob. The worst elements of humanity go there for darker reasons. Some find the lack of law and order appealing and revel in the violence, the bloodshed, the drink and the drugs and the lack of consequences for their actions. This human filth often gravitates towards the bandit faction, which is said to have links to organized crime outside of the zone. It is common practice for stalkers to adopt a nickname or call sign, such as my associate, Nomad, to disguise their identities from the authorities and anyone who might be after them. Disguising their faces with gas masks, bandanas and balaclavas are also common practices. It is for these reasons why you should be very careful who you trust in the zone. Politics. On paper, the northern and southern sections of the zone remain the sovereign territory of Belarus and Ukraine respectively. Both nations have placed their respective part of the zone under martial law, but this is largely a technicality, only really applying to the zone's perimeter. In practice, the zone is a law unto itself, with no official governing body, laws or police to enforce them. Inside the zone, the inhabitants have their own politics. While many prefer to work alone, or in small groups, some people with like-minded ideals, goals or views about the zone join to form factions. Faction relations can be complex affairs, with some factions friendly towards one faction, neutral towards another and hostile to another. These relations are in constant flux, truces are made and broken, allegiances shifted as the situation dictates. I will go into this in greater detail later. The two main factions, duty and freedom, do provide some measure of security and order in the areas of the zone they control. However, these areas are relatively small, and whatever security and order they provide breaks down as soon as they start fighting over their petty ideological differences. The rest of the zone is pretty much the Wild West, so watch your back out there. The basic rule of thumb is simple: if they are shooting at you, shoot back, and shoot to kill. Language, culture and customs. First things first, if you are not fluent already, learn to speak Russian. This may sound obvious, but you will be surprised by how many people from non-Russophone countries try to get to the zone, without giving any real consideration as to how they are going to communicate with anyone once they get there. Most stalkers are from Eastern Europe or Russia, and therefore speak Russian as either a first or second language. Most of the signs, notices and pretty much anything else written down in the zone will also be in Russian, as most of it dates back to Soviet times. Therefore, for practical reasons, Russian is the unofficial language of the zone. If you are unable to read, write and speak Russian to a reasonable standard, you are going to have problems functioning there. Furthermore, you run the risk of angering the locals, who may not take kindly to you not bothering to learn the language in advance. Therefore, if you do not understand Russian already, start learning this now. Similarly, if you are not from a Slavic or Russophone country, you may not be familiar with Slavic customs and culture. Again, start learning these now so you will be able to fit in and not inadvertently offend someone. Being a stranger in a strange land can be difficult at the best of times. If that strange land is lawless and populated by people with AK-74s, these difficulties can become magnified.